I am Aziz. I'm come from Uzbekistan, Tashkent State University Economics, Department of World Economy. All right, basically, I study international economics and give a lecture to my students, regional economics. So we study world regions divided in 24 parts. China is South Asian countries. So we briefly understand and study from 16 criteria, starting from history and to the globalization of the world influence to the global economics. So coming to the today's forum, this is exactly what I have expected because this is a terminology, even it included in history, included in social, for example, in economics, which is a civilization. Now 11 participants here, we gave lectures here, attended I mean. So if you pay attention, the initial speech was prehistoric time and Mesopotamia, for example, and Greeks, Indian, Sumerian, Mi'kmaq, Ojibwe, Kaskajal, a lot of tribes and historical parts of the Western or maybe Middle East countries. But coming to the Chinese point of view, China its own history, because we have yesterday visited the China Archaeological Museum and China National Library, for example. I have myself visited and gave some ideas about more than 5,000 years ago history with archaeological and other stuff. So coming to the Confucianism, we know there are lots of similarity our countries and maybe our lifestyle from children, parents, and from teachers and society, government perspective and morality, spirituality, for example, and divinity. So we can study and learn from each other, integration and networking. So I think this is a half part of the same in today's forum, but I have expected a lot of information and practice more experience from different countries and other. At the stage of globalization position, now it's impossible to integrate a networking or globalization itself. It's impossible. So coming to the globalization, it's a free flow of idea, free flow of goods and services all over the world. So these types of summit or forum can be explained or really give evidence to cross-culture and cross-unit. This is because of exchanging idea, maybe from university perspective, a student exchange mobility, internship program, and for example, trade houses opening each country, both of the regional partnership and coming to the one belt, one road initiatives, starting from China through the land and coming through the, for example, sea land. This is also makes clear statement. Without networking each country, it's impossible. Coming to the culture and art, maybe social responsibility of each government and the countries should be respected. Meanwhile, at the moment, I mean, for the past 5 years, we have a lot of projects organized by China itself and our government as well. We have, for example, China, Uzbekistan railroad building through the China and Tajikistan and Uzbekistan. This is one of the logistics and transportation for global hub. And as you know, as everyone knows, Silk Road starts from China, ends up to the European Union, for example, through the MENA states. So it's a clear cut through the railway. We expected enlarging of trade partnership and maybe service export as well through the One Belt, One Road initiatives.
Thank you so much for your time.
All right, thank you very much. I hope this forum will end with a lot of inspiration and other things. Thank you very much as well.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
My name is Uzodinma Gerlof Michael.
And where are you from?
I'm from Nigeria.
And what institution do you represent?
Actually two. The first is Shandong University and Beijing Foreign Studies University.
You teach at Shandong University?
No, I studied before there.
Wow, that's fascinating. So you speak Chinese?
Yeah. I speak Chinese.
Wow. So may I ask you, what do you think about China?
What I think about China? I think the best word to represent China is fast-growing economy.
Yeah, there is definitely that feeling.
And security.
Security, yeah, safety. And
yes.
Yeah. In terms of this forum, the 10th Nishan Forum for Global Civilizations, what do you hope to accomplish here?
because like I hope to learn more about like about the world civilizations and China and the Confucius stuff, like because for me I once had like a program in China studies, like China studies program. So and then I learned a lot, but I hope to learn more from here too, because I see like this place has like so many scholars from so many countries in the world, and I think everybody have their opinion about different things. So I want to hear their opinion and learn more.
So, in terms of celebrating global civilizations, one another's civilizations, what do you think, is this a good way to build global peace?
The forum, you mean?
Yes.
Of course, because I mean, one of the best ways to build peace is dialogue, communication, interaction with different people, like to know what they think, and also for you to know, for them to know what you think. Because the way to build peace is by understanding. And how can we build this understanding is by hosting this kind of forums and conferences, so we all understand each other and hear each other out. And because like because there's a difference between me reading about you and you telling me about yourself and your opinions. It's very different. So I think this is a very important forum, or important platform to build global peace, I think.
Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you.
I am Abdourahmane DIOUF, first Counselor of the Embassy of Senegal in China.
Wow, that's amazing. What do you think of the 10th Nishan Forum for Global Civilizations, this forum?
Yeah, I think this forum is very important in the sense that we are in a world with more and more conflicts, more and more misunderstanding between countries, culture, and civilization. So we need this kind of forum to make people together exchange, to foster exchange and dialogue between culture and civilization all over the world. So that is very important to reach global understanding between cultures, peace, and development.
My question is this. What do you think about the idea of celebrating each other's cultures? How does this potentially lead to peace?
Yeah, potentially, if we celebrate each other's culture, it means there is an openness to the other. There's a need to understand what others, how they live the world, how they understand the world, what are their vision of the world. And if we integrate this element in our own culture, in our own understanding of the world, so this can contribute to peace.
Could you tell us something most people would not know about Senegal in terms of your own global civilization?
Yeah. Our civilization, our culture is very ancient. Even if in our history, we had colonization, we had slavery, yes, as some accidents of history, but we have values of, for example, family and solidarity. Those are very strong, and those values are integrated in our education in the early stage of life in our families.
So what have you thought of your visit to China? So you stationed in China?
Yes, in China.
So what do you think about China?
Yes, China is a wonderful country. I mean, I discover every day is a discovery for me, and I discover more and more that China is a huge country in terms of culture, in terms of modernization. The efforts they make to modernize their culture also is very important, because culture, even if it's good, but it needs permanent innovation and efforts to make it to update. So I am a witness of the efforts Chinese people are making to innovate in culture.
Thank you so much for your time.
Hey, you're welcome.
David J. Carlson. I'm from Minnesota in the United States. I've been at 5 universities. I probably should be a professor. I taught middle school and high school, but I'm not a professor. I'm in business. I have a company with a co-founder of mine. We're partners. He's Chinese-American out of Chicago. And we have a, it's like a...
JV.
Yeah, it's, we have a firm based out of Minnesota. And we specialize in helping like American, Chinese businesses work together, Asia Pacific, Middle East. So essentially kind of bridging the gap to help companies work with Americans in particular.
That's fantastic. I hope you the most success with that.
No, I appreciate it.
I think, you know, business ties between our countries are the foundation of peace.
So where are you out of?
I'm from San Francisco.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
From Beijing.
Oh yeah, so you know, well, you know, it's not the easiest to deal with Americans and American consumers. You know, the just the base that you might need, maybe partners that you have, suppliers. So there's a lot of room for dialogue, but also like interpretation. So we look to be a bridge. So like our first event, I was at a bank until like a few months ago. So now I'm on my own, my partner. But we're having an event in Dubai. It's gonna be our US-China business forum we're having in Dubai in September. So there's a big Chinese contingent, obviously, of companies and interests within the Middle East.
Plug your forum. What's the name of your forum?
It's US-China Business Investment Forum in Dubai on September 12th at the DIOUF Palms.
May I ask about this forum? Do you think that appreciating and celebrating each other's cultures is also a good foundation for peace?
I think it's critical. I mean, outside of you, I think I heard one American accent, and maybe there's a priest here that I think is American. But out of what, like 1,500 people here, there's me and you. So you're media and I'm attending. So I think part of like where we're going with our firm is how, if you are whether you're a Chinese company, American company, somewhere in between, Japanese, whatever, how do you navigate the US-China relationship? And you know, people like us, we have to still work together with whether it be Chinese, American, you know, whatever, especially in business. So the politicians tend to screw things up, and the rest of us are left to clean up the mess. So I think, especially with cross cultures, it helps to have kind of like a guide. And I think that's kind of what we're looking to do. But like this forum is an outstanding opportunity, obviously, to get to see a lot of ancient Chinese culture with Confucius and Confucianism. I've never been in Nishan, but also modern China, like that show last night was probably I'm not big into like not necessarily musicals, but like musicals with a lot of acting and all. Like I like more like classical music, jazz. I like concerts like that.
We're of the same artistic.
But I thought that was probably the best like full musical that I've ever seen. Like having incorporated technology quite a bit. A lot of modern tech. You had ancient story, good storytelling, fantastic like choreography, and I mean, just to be able to pull off an event with like 100 people all moving around, I thought that was probably the best I've ever seen. So I think they brought together a lot of like ancient China, modern China, future, like the X-Bot over here making my coffee. So you have kind of everything together, and I think there's not enough Americans probably engaging in this world, whether it be in China directly or just understanding more how to work with China, and whether it be Chinese businesses or even where the Chinese perspective is. I mean, to be able to operate effectively, you have to understand what's happening. And I think too often, in the West, particularly probably the United States, we have a very American-centric view of how China should, deal with us. And, we just celebrated 348 years there, several thousand. So I think if we were Chinese, we would look at that relationship much different than us as Americans, because they're looking at it as like, hey, we go all the way back, past Confucius. You guys are, George Washington. It wasn't that long ago. So I think they want to be seen as a power, equal, or at least treated, on an equal plane. Maybe, kind of like say Thailand, same but different, right? And they're a big power too. And I think that a lot of times we see it, and even with President Trump, America first. You can look home with America and what we need to do, and also have an international framework that you're operating in, and understand that most of the world is not in the United States. Like I think in Dubai, they say they're within a 6-hour flight of like 80% of the globe.
Wow.
And that's rather telling. It's kind of in the middle. That's kind of why we chose Dubai. It's in the middle of China, Asia Pacific, and United States. It's that center point where, and you can see that in the Middle East, they're trying to have more of a voice in whether it be mediation talks, with some of the conflicts going on now. And I think China has tremendous opportunity too. And quite frankly, I think our country is probably not the best suited host some of these negotiations in terms of being a mediator. I think I've done a lot of traveling this year, quite a bit. I've been in UAE for over a month out of the 7 months already, and talked to a lot of people. And I don't think we're viewed as a independent arbiter. So I think that's maybe something new, in the last maybe 10 years, maybe longer. But with a lot of the problems going on right now, I think there's a viewpoint within the United States and within the American government and within the brain trust of the U.S. that we have to be at the head of the table. And I think you can work with partners and you can work with allies and achieve the same goal you want. You might not necessarily be at the head of the table, but there might not be a head of the table. There might just be a bunch of head chairs and
the round table.
Something like that, exactly. Kind of like Game of Thrones, where you've got all the kingdoms. And I think that sometimes shows like even Game of Thrones kind of shows how it can be done, but also the conflicts. So there's got to be someone who's got the crown, right? And I think that's part of the problem right now is the United States. We don't know how it looks like the next phase for our country. And I think for China, they're looking at like, it's our time now. And I think that they do have a lot of opportunity, particularly with the Russia-Ukraine situation. And then I think on the United States side, it's been obvious to me that our relationship with Israel, we're the #1 person with them. So I think if anyone could exert any kind of leverage with the Israelis, it's going to be the United States. If anyone has leverage with the Russians, it's going to be the Chinese. So I think rather than kind of look at it as adversarial, which I think is pretty much what it's been, is I think that the two countries could actually put an end to these conflicts, I think, if they really wanted to. But I think there's a lot of other factors, and that's an entirely other conversation. But to be able to even engage in that type of conversation, you have to be able to get to the table, especially with the Chinese. You don't just get to the table with Chinese. You have to be referred, recommended. Someone has to vouch for you. And I've met a lot of people are Chinese American, and from China. And I think I've been able to carve a little bit of a niche of like I'm fair. Like I'm American, but at the same time I realize the global implications of what's happening and where we're at. And I obviously want my country to be great and do well, but that doesn't mean that other countries can't be great and do well as well. And I think for Americans, I don't think we're looking at China from the right perspective. And I know I talk a lot like academic, but and I don't shut up. But I think when you look even in some of the GOP platforms, I was sent. So I've been gone for about 28 days. So last few days, GOP is having a platform on issues with China and where they stand. And I think that it's really important to, kind of like Ambassador Burns said, the ambassador to China from the United States, that divorce is not an option. And our countries are too big and too interconnected to be able to separate. So I think one way or another, if we're a married couple, we're gonna have to find a way to make it work, because there's no separating. Like, we're just too intertwined. So I think that's the challenge, is to have people that can work in the middle ground. And I think that in the business community, that's where we end up being, is we have to deal with kind of what they end up doing with a lot of the rhetoric, and then we have to unpack it. Whether you're doing business in China, you're doing business in the U.S., internationally. China's a massive market. United States is a massive market. They're vast economies. and they're complex. So I think those are the issues that are kind of surrounding this conference. Is there's not a lot of American presence here, so it's I think we're on the back burner, but kind of hovering over all of this is that U.S.-China relationship. And a place like UAE, India, Japan, you have all these allies that are kind of in the middle, and they don't necessarily know how to play it. I think that there's an opportunity for companies to come in there and help navigate it. And I think that you really need to have people like you, like me, that are in this field and that are having those conversations, because it does have an impact. If I'm the only American someone talks to here, like, and if they, I don't know how many Americans they'll talk to. So if they find me disagreeable, unlikable, egotistical, I think that could have a influence on how they see Americans in general. So I think on the micro and macro level, the individuals do matter. And
We're all ambassadors.
yeah, we kind of all are. And I think this type of event is a good opportunity. I wish more Americans probably were involved, but nonetheless, there are some, and I think our contribution does make a difference. And hopefully, kind of like Confucian principles, there's more focus on the things that we can work on together than kind of the conflicts. And I think that's the problem that we're all kind of working around, to be honest.
Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it.